possible.
All right, 9:42 right now. I want to bring you some breaking news and go out to a live press conference out of our state's capital with Governor Josh Stein and Attorney General Jeff Jackson.
That goes from
Facebook and Instagram, and North Carolina's share will be up to $645 million with a guaranteed minimum of $451 million. However, the main purpose of this settlement is not money. It is to protect kids and empower parents. My wife and I have 3 kids. We know how hard it is to argue with them about screen time. Part of the reason it's so hard is because parents are up against technology that has been engineered specifically to capture and hold their child's attention. Governor Stein is also a father, and when he was Attorney General, he helped launch an investigation into Meta precisely over this concern, on the suspicion that they were engineering their products specifically to addict kids. And what they found was that was the case. The internal documents that investigation uncovered made very clear that Meta was specifically engineering their products to be as addictive as possible to young people. Here are some of the quotes that investigation uncovered. Our product exploits weaknesses in human psychology to promote product engagement and time spent. Our overall company goal is total teen time spent. Instagram is a drug. We're basically pushers. The executives at Meta talked about how to target the reward-seeking part of a child's brain in order to keep them on the app to make more money off of them. They talked about how susceptible young people are to feeling miserable about themselves because of various features on the app, like the beauty filters that were designed to mimic cosmetic surgery. They talked about how if they were watching videos about eating disorders, they would be shown more videos about eating disorders. And they knew that millions of kids under the age of 13 were using the app, and their data was being collected in violation of the law. Meanwhile, Meta was telling parents everywhere that their top concern was the safety of their children, and it wasn't. Their top concern was making a buck, and they did it while ignoring the risks that they were creating for those children. That is what the investigation uncovered. Once Governor Stein, as AG, had that evidence in hand, he joined a lawsuit with other AGs. That lawsuit is what we are resolving today. There are 2 reasons we are resolving this litigation via settlement. The first is that we believe we are going to get more from settlement than we would from litigation. We could get more money from litigation, but I'm about to walk you through the new child safety upgrades that are going to be coming as a result of this settlement. We would not have gotten those through litigation. Second reason we're resolving through settlement is speed of outcome. Litigation would mean that we were still many years away from bringing any of these child safety upgrades to these platforms. It would risk losing another generation, and that's a risk we cannot take. Now I'm going to go through some of the major terms of this agreement. But as a quick preface, please know, these apply to users between the ages of 13 and 17. Below 13, not supposed to be on the app. New rules about that. We can get into the details there. And they exist as the new default settings. The main purpose of this settlement is to protect kids and empower parents. Parents will have the power to change these settings by dialing them up or dialing them down as they feel is best for their children and their families. There are 3 major pieces to this settlement: access, safety, and accountability. Let's go over access first. The data shows that nearly 80% of teens use social media for over 2 hours a day, and nearly 40% of them use social media for over 5 hours a day. That is why the first provision in access is a daily limit of 2 hours. In addition, data shows that one of the most disruptive ways that social media can impact a young person is by messing up their sleep. A significant percentage of young people are using social media after midnight. The new default will be that those feeds will be disabled between midnight and 6 a.m. In addition, there will now be school mode. We are hearing from teachers that they need students to be able to focus. And that's very difficult when notifications are going off on a constant basis. As a result, school mode will now disable those notifications during school hours, again, by default. And we all know what it's like to slip into a trance with the endless scroll. The endless scroll was a big piece of engineering addiction. As a result, by default, Meta will now have to introduce productive pauses when kids have been scrolling for a while in order to encourage them to stop. The second big piece of this settlement is safety. Basically, we want these apps to do a better job of not making young people feel miserable about themselves. I have a 7-year-old daughter. One day, she's going to be on social media. I don't want that to be a miserable place for her. I don't want her to see these features that are designed to mimic the effects of cosmetic surgery and change the shape of your face, the shape of your body, and develop unrealistic beauty standards. That's plainly harmful for young people. So as a result, those beauty filters that are designed to mimic the effects of cosmetic surgery will now be disabled. In addition, we know how susceptible young people are to social comparison, to being ranked publicly in front of all of your friends on a daily basis based on how many likes your last post just got. For adults, how many likes you get on a post might not be a big deal, but for a 15-year-old, it can feel like a daily high-stakes contest. So by default, like counts will now be hidden. Now let's talk about the third big piece, which is accountability. This is the most accountability that social media has ever faced. It's been a long time coming, and there's more to do. But today is truly a landmark act of accountability against social media and the effect that it has had on children. First, as mentioned, there's the money. This is the largest settlement against big tech in American history by far. It is one of the largest settlements in the history of North Carolina. A minimum of $451 million up to $645 million. Second, there will be an independent auditor who will have access to Meta's internal documentation and will report on whether the company is actually complying. It's very important to us. And third is age assurance. Meta will now have to do a much better job determining how old its users really are, so kids can't simply lie about their age and avoid these safeguards. Here's what happens next. The court approves the settlement. These changes start rolling out. An awareness campaign from Meta, from our office, lets parents know about these changes. And then, a 14-year-old boy is going to hit his 2-hour limit, and he's going to go to his mom and ask for more time. And now that mom and that son will be involved in a conversation and a decision that they didn't have before. And that's what progress looks like today. That's what accountability for big tech looks like. I really appreciate everyone at NCDOJ who worked very, very hard on this. This did not come together overnight. This was an extended process to make sure that we were getting as much as we could to protect children. I'm very grateful for people who put aside their holidays, their vacations, their weekends, and their evenings in order to bring this together. They did really a tremendous job for the state and for the country. I'm now going to be followed by Governor Josh Stein, who, as Attorney General, got the ball rolling on this effort. Governor.
Thank you, Attorney General. Attorney General Jackson, thank you so much for hosting us. Thank you so much for your work and that of your team. Attorney General has demonstrated tremendous leadership when it comes to protecting North Carolina's children. Today's settlement represents a major win for parents across the state. It will help us keep young people safe by requiring Meta to change how its apps operate to reduce teen addiction. The settlement will also bring at least $450 million to the state to begin repairing the harm that Meta has inflicted on our kids. When I filed this lawsuit back in 2023, I spoke with parents about the harms that Meta, through its app Instagram, was causing to children. I spoke with one mom whose daughter had developed an eating disorder. She was so worried that she confiscated her daughter's phone, opened up the Instagram, and scrolled through video after video of content that was glorifying eating disorders and weight loss. Videos gave her daughter tips and tricks for how to worsen her illness, her eating disorder, putting not only her health, but her life at risk. So many parents had similar stories about how Instagram fed their children harmful videos, promoting racist content and violent imagery, increasing their feelings of anxiety and unworthiness. But it wasn't just parents who knew this. Meta knew this. Meta knew better. Instagram's internal documents, as the Attorney General just highlighted, showed that it knew just how harmful its apps were for children. In fact, we allege that Meta specifically designed its apps in order to be more addictive to kids. And then it had the gall to market its app to parents as safe. That's why in 2023, alongside a number of other AGs, I took Meta to court to hold them accountable. Meta did not see children as precious beings to be protected. They saw them as dollar signs to be exploited. We allege that the company broke state and federal law, targeting and addicting kids, lying and failing to disclose to the public the harms of social media use, and violating child privacy laws. The more time that the kids spent on the app, the more addicted our kids became and the more money that Meta made. Today, North Carolina is beginning to right that wrong. As the Attorney General just described, this settlement puts in place real injunctive relief to prevent future harm to our children and to keep future parents from the agony of watching their child spiral because of social media. It also requires Meta to pay North Carolina at least $450 million. That's going to be used to support youth mental health. I look forward to working with the Attorney General, with the legislature, Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Public Instruction, to figure out how we can best utilize these dollars to make the biggest impact on improving young people's mental health. Keeping kids safe is job number one for all of us. Increasingly, it means keeping kids safe online. 97% of teens say they use the internet every day. The share of teens who report being online almost constantly has increased by nearly 2/3. That's why last year, as governor, I launched my task force on student safety and well-being and partnered with the General Assembly to remove the use of cell phones during the school day. That's why, as Attorney General, I sued TikTok. And that's why, as Attorney General, I launched this lawsuit against Meta back in 2023. I hope it leads to additional corrective action by other social media companies. I want to thank Attorney General Jackson. I want to thank him. I want to thank his team for their dogged work. A settlement of this nature does not just happen. It requires hours of tenacious work to hold one of the biggest, richest companies in the world accountable in a real way. And so I thank you, Attorney General Jackson. And I will now invite forward Superintendent Mo Green. Superintendent.
Good morning. I want to start with some gratitude. First, thank you, Attorney General Jackson, for your leadership in this lawsuit and settlement. And then thank you also, Governor Stein, who started this lawsuit, for your commitment to North Carolina's young people, as it has certainly helped make this day possible. This settlement is historic. Indeed, with all our partners in our state working together, it has the potential to be transformative for every child in North Carolina. Why does this matter? While North Carolina's public schools certainly can celebrate historic results with graduation rates and participation and performance on college level exams and courses, and the number of industry recognized credentials earned, continued progress will not happen if our students are struggling with mental health issues. Student mental health and learning are interconnected. A student who is anxious, who is depressed, who is exhausted, who feels hopeless or worse, that student cannot fully learn. What I heard. In the spring of 2025, I traveled every region of this state on what we called the Mo Wants to Know tour. I listened to teachers, to parents and students as they shared their concerns. In every region of the state, people shared similar concerns. Our young people need more mental health support. They need more help with the pressures that they are carrying. Teachers said it, parents said it, students themselves said it. What the data shows. Earlier this month, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction presented our 2025 Youth Risk Behavior Survey results for high school students to the State Board of Education. It revealed two things, both of which matter today. First, real progress. Fewer students reporting carrying weapons at school, fewer report physical fights, fewer are missing school because they feel unsafe. Alcohol and marijuana use among our high schoolers are at the lowest levels in 20 years. More students say they feel connected to school and have an adult they trust. But then second, real need. Nearly 3 in 10 students told us they experienced persistent sadness and hopelessness in the past year. About 1 in 9 seriously considered suicide. These numbers have improved from 2 years ago, and I'm certainly glad that they have, but they are far too high still. The need. North Carolina has some mental health supports for our young people already in place today, but we don't have nearly enough programs or personnel like school counselors, school social workers, school psychologists, and school nurses. Let me give you 2 examples. The recommended ratio for school social workers is 1 for every 250 students. North Carolina was at 1 to every 1,055 in 2025. The recommended ratio for school psychologists is 1 for every 250 students. North Carolina was at 1 to every 1,954 in 2025. The resources and commitment announced today are essential to closing these gaps. What we have already done. So some of this ground is not new for us. The State Board of Education and the Department of Public Instruction made student well-being a key focus of one of the 8 pillars of our strategic plan. We worked with the governor and the General Assembly on legislation banning access to wireless devices during instructional time so that students can focus on learning. One teacher put the impact on this legislation this way. She said, for the first time in years, she consistently saw her students' eyes during instruction. We released screen time guidance for educators to help schools use technology where it truly helps learning and to set it aside where it gets in the way. The road ahead. I look forward to working with the governor, the Attorney General, the General Assembly, and other partners so that these resources are used to support the well-being of our young people as directly and effectively as possible. Our goal is simple. Every child in North Carolina, in every county, in whatever school they currently attend or will attend, should have access to mental health support they need to be successful in the classroom and to be prepared for their next phase of life. Let me conclude this way with, again, a moment or two of gratitude. I certainly want to acknowledge Meta for having committed to immediate changes in how their social media platforms operate to better protect our young people. That accountability matters. We certainly welcome those changes and will be watching to see them through. And again, thank you to Attorney General Jackson and Governor Stein. This is a great day for North Carolina's children. I look forward to working with both of these gentlemen, the General Assembly, and other partners who support our children in making the most of it. Thank you.
Happy to take any questions. Yes.
Hi there, Megan Cloherty with WRAL. You mentioned that Meta, from an accountability standpoint, has the ability to assess the age of the child. How do we know that they're going to be doing that?
It is going to be written into this agreement that will then become part of a court order that to 95 degrees certainty with between the ages of 13 and 15 and 90 degrees certainty for ages 16 and 17, they will be required by the court to do that. They have told us that they believe that they can reach that level based on technology that they have, but ultimately, if they fail to do that, they will be in violation of this order, and we will take them back to court.
So there's an auditing process that's going to follow up to make sure they are following the law.
There is. Part of this is accountability, and the biggest piece of that was the independent auditor who's going to be making sure that all of these provisions are executed to their written standard. Anyone else? Yes.
From the financial consideration, we know there's a time period of when that money will be coming in.
Yes.
When can the state expect to see, I guess, that first payment? And have there been internal discussions at this time about how that money will be best broken down as it comes in?
First payment is going to be this year, of $45 million. Then it's going to be $45 million a year, every year after that, for a span of 8 years. Within the next biennium, which is how we do our budgets, there should be 4 payments of $45 million. As the governor indicated, that's going to be a discussion between him and the General Assembly. Our recommendation is going to be that this money be spent addressing the harm that was caused, which is youth mental health. Anyone else?
Are there like specific programs or things you'd like to see? This question addressed probably to all of you regarding the youth mental health programs and such on how the money should be spent.
You know, the ink is barely dry on this. I think the governor referenced a handful of agencies with whom we know we're going to have a conversation about that. But as far as specific programs, I think that's going to be a conversation for a later date. Yes.
Are there any concerns about Meta's data collection about kids as part of that age verification piece? Like, they're going to have to verify that somehow. They're going to be collecting data as part of that.
I think the answer is yes, and I think we know that the amount of data that this company has is voluminous, so that's going to be an ongoing conversation. Anyone else? Yes.
Earlier you mentioned that there would be like a time restraint and then the child could go to their parent and ask for more time. So I guess it puts some of the responsibility back to parents. So what are you guys asking of parents as you guys push for such large changes?
The whole purpose of this is to protect kids and empower parents. Our message as this rolls out is going to be to kids and parents about the new settings that exist and how they are defaults that are designed to be shifted up and down based on what parents feel is appropriate for their children. This is going to lead to millions of conversations between parents and kids all across the country about what is really best for that child and for that family.
How soon will parents have the option to do this? How quickly is this going to happen?
That's a great question. So you are receiving documentation immediately after this press conference that includes the list of all of the new safeguards and the deadlines for each of them. It's not the same deadline for each because some of them from an engineering standpoint are a little more of a challenge, and the last step at every one of these is the independent auditor making sure that that safeguard works as per written standard here. In terms of rough ballpark, once this is adopted by the court, which we believe will not be an enormous delay, the rough ballpark would be 2 to 6 months. Yes.
In its statement today, Meta has called on YouTube and TikTok to enact similar changes. Have there been any discussions with the coalition of attorneys general with those respective companies as it relates to their platforms?
There is no question that this settlement does not solve the entire issue with respect to social media because it does not include YouTube, it does not include Snap, it does not include TikTok. However, it is written to accommodate them so that if they do join a substantively similar agreement and we get what's called industry-wide adoption, that unlocks the next tranche of recovery from Meta. That's why there's a difference between 451 and 645. What bumps it up to 645 is establishing industry-wide adoption within the next 5 years. Look, we're happy to talk to TikTok and Snap and Google about this. We're also happy to take them to court like we did with Meta and like we're doing right now with TikTok. This is an easy way or a hard way situation.
One question on clarity. Some of these changes, like removing the beautification filters and no access between midnight and 6 a.m., those only for teenage users or those for all users?
13 to 17. The reason it's not below 13 is they're not supposed to be on the app, and that's now going to be more rigorously enforced. Any other questions? No? Thank you for your time. Appreciate you.